given how incredibly divisive this has been, that if he does get that magic 270 tonight, if those Rust Belt states go his way, not to mention Pennsylvania, that is the theme and the tone and the tenor I'm told he will set.
And what's impressive, very impressive, not only is ahead in the Electoral College map, but popular vote. He is ahead in the popular vote. I think about 54 million Americans have voted for him, maybe a million more than voted for Hillary Clinton nationwide. That is so impressive right now.
It's big, but as you note, it's right now. We still have yet to see what happens in California and some of the western states. But just to touch on what Dan has said in terms of the speech, whoever wins this evening, there is a huge responsibility for that man or that woman to reach out not only to the people who voted for his or her opponent, but to the people who don't like him or her. If Donald Trump wins, I think there is going to be, in addition to his celebration and the victory lap that he has every right to take, there are people who were really bothered by things like when he made fun of that disabled reporter. And he really has an obligation, especially if he wants to be a successful president. And I know he wants to be a successful anything that he tries to do. He wants to succeed at. There is an opportunity now for the country to heal, for the country to come together, whether Hillary Clinton wins or Donald Trump wins. And I really hope that the victor does actually take that opportunity to try to unite the country after this extremely brutal election.
The onus is also on the person who doesn't win.
Absolutely.
To do that.
Absolutely.
And you know, we remember in 2008, John McCain's concession speech was probably one of the best speeches he ever gave in his life because it was so gracious in telling the people who supported him to please support the next president. And because, again, this has been so divisive, so tough, so intense, it is maybe even more important for the person giving the concession speech to give that message to their supporters.
We'll see what time the victory speech happens and the concession speech happens. We're going to be watching all of that so closely. It's still not over yet. They're still counting votes. Anderson, back to you.
Yeah, well, thanks very much. In terms of what happens in the coming weeks for whoever the president-elect is, in terms of a transition team, I mean, some of them have, I assume both sides, and certainly the Clinton side has already, they have people in place. I know Donald Trump has named as well. What is the process for that?
Well, Chris Christie is running the transition for Donald Trump, and that's a problem. And he also hasn't been particularly visible of late with Donald Trump because of the whole Bridgegate trial, et cetera. But they have been running a full-bore transition. I think in terms of Hillary Clinton, when you were dealing with an Obama administration who had been here, Democrats, the transition might have been a little smoother and a lot easier than if it is President Trump, then the Obama team, the President Trump's team who wants to actually undo everything that President Obama has done in office.
It is interesting also when you have President Obama with the highest approval ratings, I guess, of his presidency. Well, probably not of his presidency, but it's certainly for a president at this stage.
Yes. Up there with Reagan.
And certainly was out there on the campaign trail an awful lot. I mean, to not be able to, I mean, he was able to get himself elected, but he didn't have great coattails certainly for Hillary Clinton.
Well, obviously, I'm sure he's deeply disappointed tonight. I haven't spoken to him, but he campaigned very, very vigorously. He felt very strongly about it. My guess is that they will meet on Thursday because that is the obligation of the outgoing president to try and affect a transition to the next administration. We've done it for a couple of centuries, and I'm sure he'll feel a responsibility to do it. Let me just make a couple of points, though. One of the things that I'm going to be watching, you talk about people were swept in on his coattails and so on. Some of them were incumbents who were reelected. There are many members, or there are more than a few members of Congress who didn't endorse him of his own party. Paul Ryan separated himself from Donald Trump and excoriated him in very, very sharp terms several times. They don't have the same agendas in many ways. The notion of, I'll be interested to see. I can't think of a time when you had a president who was so at odds with so much of his own base, because ultimately he ran against the Washington establishment, and Mitch McConnell and Paul Ryan and some of those guys, they're part of the Washington
But
establishment.
now they're going to have to deal with them, and they're going to have to figure out what part of the Trump agenda works with what they want to do. I mean, as Donald Trump always says, he's a
think that's-
negotiator, even if he has to negotiate.
Michael,
I just add to the list of, we're in uncharted territory.
Yeah.
We seem to be assuming we're going to hear an acceptance speech from Donald Trump, perhaps, if this goes the way it's. You know what all the caveats are. Here's what I'm trying to say. You can put on that list trying to calm down the market because the Dow futures are down 800. I don't know what it is he says tonight or tomorrow, but he needs to the point of who will he surround himself with, make sure that he can instill some confidence in Wall Street sooner than later.
Yeah, and it'll also be interesting to see what Obama says, right? I mean, they have this meeting on Thursday or so. Obama has been very vocal that he didn't think that Donald Trump was qualified to be president. He didn't have the temperament. Donald Trump, if he becomes president, is a complete and utter repudiation of Obama. I mean, he ran as the anti-Obama. And if you look at all the things that the transition team has been saying, their goal is to undo Obama's legacy.
It is paradoxical because, as Anderson pointed out, the president's approval rating is quite high. But let me just say this. Part of what the president and others criticized Donald Trump for was suggesting that he might not accept the result of the election. I don't think you can do that and then not accept the result of the election. And I think there'll be people, and Van can speak to it, who are going to be in a resistant mood about this because they'll say Donald Trump didn't give Barack Obama a chance, so why should we give Donald Trump a chance? And the answer to that is we only have one president at a time, and you have to try and make it work.
We're going to have more with our panel, a lot more. Still looking, counting the votes, looking at the numbers state by state. We'll be right back.
Mr. Chief Justice, may it please the court. What is the danger to the state of Virginia of interracial marriage? What is the state of danger to the people of interracial marriage? Marriage is a fundamental right.
Do you think you'll lose?
We may lose the small battles, but win the big war.
Loving, based on a true story. Rated PG-13.
Looks like we're bound to start anew. Who better to start it with than you, dear?
See you next year.
This season, start a new tradition. Experience the power of infinity now with leases starting at $319 a month. Infinity. Empower the drive.
I've roamed and rambled, and I followed my footsteps to the sparkling sands of her diamond deserts. And all around me, a voice was sounding. This land was made for you and me.
The winner plots one step ahead of the opposition.
They're fighting the richest group on the hill.
So who's with me?
How the hell did she manage that?
Start an inquisition.
Get ready to be crucified.
Who's controlling you?
You are blackmailing a United States senator.
You crossed the line. We're not gonna lose.
You're a piece of work, Elizabeth.
I was hired to win, and there will only ever be one winner.
Miss Sloan, rated R.
Now we have a key race alert. Let's update you on all the outstanding votes right now. Let's start in the key, let's call it the battleground state of Michigan right now. 81% of the vote is in. Trump maintains a pretty good lead, 72,000 votes over Hillary Clinton. There are 16 electoral votes at stake in Michigan. Wisconsin, he's got an 87,000 vote lead over Hillary Clinton right now with 88% of the vote in. That's another 10 electoral votes right there. Let's see what happens in Wisconsin. In Arizona, he also has a pretty good lead of 64,000 votes over Hillary Clinton with 65% of the vote in Arizona. 11 electoral votes at stake there. In Pennsylvania, Donald Trump maintains his lead. Almost 59,000 vote lead over Hillary Clinton with 97% of the vote in. Trump still ahead in Pennsylvania. 20 electoral votes right there. Impressive leads in all of those states. Let's move on to New Hampshire right now. 87% of the vote in. Hillary Clinton has expanded her lead. She is now up by 3,500 votes over Donald Trump. Once again, 4 electoral votes in the state of New Hampshire. Hillary Clinton does have a lead also in the state of Maine. She's up by 17,000 votes over Donald Trump. 84% of the vote is in. 4 electoral votes in Maine. In Minnesota, Hillary Clinton has a lead there, 66,000 vote lead over Donald Trump. 85% of the vote is in the state of Minnesota, where there's 10 electoral votes. And in Alaska, the Donald Trump is building up a lead with 28% of the vote in. 13,500 vote lead over Hillary Clinton. There are 3 electoral votes at stake in Alaska. Let's take a look at the Electoral College map right now, where it stands. Trump is ahead. He has 244 electoral to Hillary Clinton's 215 electoral votes. You need 270 to be elected president of the United States. Trump is getting closer and closer and closer in this improbable run. Very impressive run for Donald Trump. John, so let's take a look and see where we stand in these remaining states.
And we're not done yet in these remaining states up here, but at the moment, 6 states that President Obama carried 4 years ago have flipped. We're not done completely, but including Florida, and at the moment we're looking at Pennsylvania, Ohio, which is done, Michigan, Wisconsin, Iowa. Stunning as you look at it. So let's go back and look and see the ones we're still waiting on. 88% now of the vote, 49 to 46 here. This has been steady, and we did this by hand a short time ago. Now it has fed in. 99% in the vote now in Milwaukee. This is where the Democrats were telling us earlier, just wait, we're going to get a lot of votes out of Milwaukee. They did get more votes, but nowhere near enough to close the statewide gap. You pull out of the thing, you're still at 49 to 46, and you see the margin there. So let's look around at the blue areas. Are there places where we can get more Democratic votes? Well, we're 100% here. See, 100% is in. We're 100% here. You come up here, Dane County, it's a big county. It's almost 9% of the state population. This is the University of Wisconsin-Madison. We can expect that the votes still out here are going to go lopsided for Secretary Clinton. The question is, are there that many out there? Because it's the only place left where you have a large population center, relatively, Democratic area with the votes still out. And I'm very skeptical that there are anywhere near enough votes there to make that up. So you look at some other blue areas, we're at 91% here again. We're not talking about a lot of votes here. It's a smaller area of the state. You pull out, let's come over here to Eau Claire. We're at 87% here, but again, it's 1.7% of the state population. So this is what's happening in the Clinton War Room. They are desperately going county by county and calling their people and saying, is there anything missing? What's missing? So every now and then a number comes in and then you see it drop. They realize they've missed something. But if you look at this right now, we're going to count them to the end. But this has been, it's a relatively small lead, but it has been a steady, we call it a stubborn lead, in the sense that as more of the votes come in, it's holding up in the state of Wisconsin. It's 10. And a very important 10. Then you move over to Michigan, which is 16. And again, we've been stuck here for a while. 81%. You see the lead right here, 48 to 47 if you round that up. About
70,000 votes.
Right, about 70,000 votes if you round that up. It just moved a little bit on you again there. And so what are we waiting for? Number one, we're still waiting, and this will be the bulk of what we're missing, is right here in Wayne County. Again, it's a place where Hillary Clinton is winning quite big, but the Milwaukee example told us, the Clinton campaign tells us, just wait, they're going to come. Maybe it will be different here, but it was not in Wisconsin. We waited, Milwaukee came in, it gave them a boost, but nowhere near what they needed. They need a miracle here out of Wayne County to make up some big numbers, translate when you get back out here. And you look through the state, earlier in the night, this was red, Marquette was red most of the night. Hillary Clinton came back, but we're at 100% now, and so there's no votes to be made up there. And so you're looking in the middle part of the state. Well, if you're trying to find areas, Genesee County, this is Flint. It's 4.3% of the state population. There's more for her. She's winning by a sizable margin. But again, you see 62-46. When the rest of that vote comes in, it's not going to. You're not going to get 30. You're not going to make up 30 or 50,000 votes there. You might make up some, but it doesn't look big enough. And that is the issue now. As you go through these states, Oakland County's at 99%. You pop down, we're still waiting most of all on this Wayne County vote. Again, mathematically impossible? No. You're starting to look here and here, and the word improbable, unlikely, comes into your head. But we'll count them. We'll keep counting them. We've seen strange shifts before. This one switched late. Pennsylvania was coming in blue most of the night. It switched late. It is still a one-point race. It's very close. Inside the Trump campaign, they think they have this. They've been checking around with their people. They think it's done. And you ask the Democrats where the vote's going to come from. There's a little bit left here. There's a little bit left here.
Not much.
Yeah, you're mostly in. This is the biggest, basket of Democratic votes of all. There's a little bit left there. But you look at this again. We'll wait. We'll keep counting. We want to be cautious about this, but again, it's a small lead.
60,000 vote lead.
60,000 in a giant state like Pennsylvania. That's normally, not a huge lead, but again, it has been steady and stubborn and persistent.
Pittsburgh's still open.
Allegheny, last time I checked, it was mostly in at 98%. So again, this is an area where it's 10% of the state population. She held the lead there, but the numbers, one of the issues, even in places where she's performing by percentage, the turnout, you see issues with turnout. That was why the Democrats were saying wait on Milwaukee. Her percentages were about what a Democrat needs to do there, but the numbers weren't. It's not just your percentage. You got to turn people out, and that's a problem, especially when you have in places like this. We talked about this earlier. 50% for Hillary Clinton to 47% for Donald Trump. Well, you're not going to win. You're not going to win in a state that has so much conservative territory. These are smaller, less populated areas, but the Democrats just in the fewer counties in Pennsylvania that are blue, the Democrats know the challenge. Not only win, but win big and run it up and do well in the suburbs. And she's just underperforming across. One that has come back, you look to the Northeast, New Hampshire has come back. Let's go back up here to 2016. But look at that. I mean, we're talking about 4,000 votes there, a little less than that.
Yeah.
A little less than that as you look at this right now. We're going to watch this come in. I mentioned earlier that the Trump people were very confident that when these votes came in down here, they would get more of them. We're still waiting on Derry. Londonderry next door has come in at a pretty good lead for Donald Trump there. So again, we're going to keep counting in New Hampshire. We're up to 87%, and this one is incredibly close seesaw. When you add it all up, Wolf, and you pull out here from an electoral college perspective, at least 2 out of 3 of these need to change for Hillary Clinton to have a hope. Probably all 3 of them. We still got some business to do out in the western part of the country. Some of these states aren't completely called yet, but the 2 big ones, Pennsylvania and Michigan, if they don't change, math doesn't work.
He's got 244 electoral votes.
Right.
By our projection, doesn't need all that many more in order to get to 270.
That would get you 64, 74, 80, 280 right there.
Anderson, back to you.
What we have seen tonight certainly is a revolution in American politics, and I'm wondering, Trump supporters Corey Lewandowski and Jeffrey Lord, I mean, we used to talk a lot about the autopsy of the Republican Party done in 2012. There's certainly going to be one done among a lot of Democrats and probably even among some Republicans. But what does this mean? Jake Tapper made the point earlier about, the polls were all wrong. What does this mean for the whole polling industry? What does this mean for how elections are run in the future? Or is Donald Trump such a unique candidate because of the force of his personality that it's...
I'd say, and Corey probably knows infinitely more about this than I do, but, politics is about people. It's about human beings. And one of the things I think we have a problem with in the political world is that everybody is so obsessed with data, and there are human faces behind these things, and they don't listen. They don't pay attention. I mean, I've told you before about my, being at home in Pennsylvania and beginning to pick up the Donald Trump thing, even before Donald Trump announced for president, because of the way people were talking about issues that had nothing to do with Donald Trump at that point. That's what this is about altogether. And when you abandon that and you just, you're just going to sit in a room full of data, you're going to lose that.
Corey, when you signed on to be campaign manager, I mean, did you honestly, in your heart, believe this night, as it appears to be going right now, was going to turn out the way it did? Did you honestly believe?
I don't think in January of 2015, when I signed on to become Donald Trump's campaign manager, to lay the foundation that anybody thought at that time Donald Trump was going to be elected president of the United States tonight. That's what is going to happen. It is unequivocal. The numbers are there. He's going to be the president of the United States. Now, how did that come to be? What we saw, against all of the pundits who said this would never happen, he would never run, never file his taxes, and all the other things you're aware of, what we saw was the American people didn't care about those things, and what they wanted, and what they want is someone who tells them the truth, that isn't stuck in a Washington mentality. And what he did and what we did many, many times and was criticized infinitely by the mainstream media was he would have a rally, but this doesn't translate to votes, and the Democrats understand precisely what Mary had for breakfast today, and she had breakfast and she ate at 3 o'clock in the afternoon. They knocked on her door and then they called her again. That's not how the American people function. That's not what the American people wanted. So what we do know is that connecting with people directly and having them buy into what you're doing, I think that's the big difference.
How much
people bought into Donald Trump?
How much did Donald, in your opinion, did Donald Trump? I mean, I've always thought Donald Trump has an extraordinary antenna, whether it's a political antenna or whatever it is, for sensing things in other people, whether it's in this company or in the crowds that he's talking to. He feeds off it. How much did Donald Trump, when he came down that escalator, do you think had in his mind what the mood of the electorate was? Or how much do you think was that he sensed once he started going out, meeting crowds of people, talking to people, that he learned from them?
Look, I think, and the Washington Post has reported this, Bob Costa has said it, he is the greatest raw political talent of a lifetime. The greatest, because he understands people fundamentally. And what you have in Donald Trump and what the blue collar sees in Donald Trump is Donald Trump is worth billions of dollars, has created an amazing company, employed tens of thousands of people. But you know what he does? He stops at McDonald's and eats there. Construction site, and he talks to everybody with respect and dignity and doesn't think anybody is better than anybody else. And I've seen it firsthand on so many occasions. And when you go with him to a construction site, and I witnessed it here in Washington when he was building the old post office, he would stop and talk to every person there working and ask them, oh, is this the right way? And he would notice small things, taking pride in everything that he does at his properties, giving pride back to the people who are doing the work, making sure that they understand that he appreciates it. The American people see that, and it was real, and it is real, and that's what the American people respect.
I know Van and Paul.
Three things. First of all, let's just try to be clinical about it. When there is a revolution in media, when there's a new media form, a new master usually comes along and shocks everybody. Radio with FDR. People totally wrote FDR off, and then he understood radio better than everybody else, and he broke through. JFK, totally written off, but he understood television better than everybody else, and he broke through. Obama, totally written off, but he understood the internet, that you could raise money, small donation dollars, viral videos, and he was able to break through. Donald Trump understands social media and reality television better than anybody else. And that's the era that we're in. And so things that you do in social media, like being outrageous, insulting people, doesn't get you fewer followers on social media. It gets you more. The idea of being the villain actually is the star in a reality TV show. And he kind of understood that. He kind of played up the villain kind of thing. I was saying all along, as you guys will remember, that this guy was a major threat. I used to call him Trumpzilla. And every Democrat told me I was wrong. When Brexit came out, I did a Facebook video, and it was called Freak the F Out, because I said this could happen here. Every Democrat told me that I was wrong. Part of it is understanding the media environment. The other part is understanding, I said over and over again, quoting Lord of the Rings, where will the hammer fall? And I said the hammer will fall on the Rust Belt. And people said, no way, it's going to be blue forever. There is a problem with the Democratic establishment not understanding the media environment that we're in, not understanding where the pain is in the country, and taking a lot of stuff for granted. So you guys were able to take advantage of that. That said, it's not as rosy as you say.
Paul, just want to get you in, and then we got to go to break.
Well, we have to understand the political environment as well, right? Donald Trump did. He gave voice to this spectacular anger. But at the same time, 69 out of 99 state legislative chambers are controlled by the Republicans, the highest since 1920. 34 of 51 governors, the highest, third highest since the Second World War. 54 senators, the highest since 1928. 274 House members, the highest since 1928. In other words, there's a huge constituency for Republicans out there. This is a Republican country. Okay, President Obama, he cut through that.
Right.
But to try to win a third term has never been done by the Democratic Party.
We got to take a quick break. We'll have more. We'll continue to count the votes, continue to look at the states. We'll be right back.
Election Night in America is brought to you by the well-equipped 2017 Mitsubishi Outlander.
Mind making a run?
I got it.
The 2017 Mitsubishi Outlander Sport, with available all-wheel control and a 10-year, 100,000-mile warranty, starting at $19,795.
Hey, almost home.
It's ready for any adventure you can imagine. Get up to $3,000 cash back on select models during the Mitsubishi Motors Holiday Sales Event.
You're in the middle of the world, man.
Critics are calling Moonlight the best film of the year. It's a game changer and a flat-out masterpiece.
You can blame me, try to shame me, and still I'll care for you.
If you see one movie this year, make it Moonlight. Moonlight, rated R. Now playing in select theaters.
Closed captioning brought to you by InventHelp. Call 1-888-909-4332.
People ask me all the time, George, what do I do with my idea for a new product? I tell them, call my friends at InventHelp.
Call for free information.
Any excuse to come to Japan is a good one.
A sushi legend is taking Tony where it all started.
Man. Where's the beer? Cheers.
Anthony Bourdain Parts Unknown, Japan. At 9 on CNN.
If you are age 85 or younger,
call 800-853-3515.
To learn more about our senior plans from Angel Care Insurance Services. The average funeral now costs over $7,000, but the most government benefits will pay your family is only $255, leaving your loved ones to pay your debt. Our senior plans will pay up to $30,000 for funeral and other final expenses. There is no medical exam, and you will have lifetime coverage. Your rates will never increase. Your benefits will never decrease, and your plan cannot be canceled. To receive free information about our senior plans and their benefits, call the number on your screen now. Also, receive information about a free prescription discount card by calling now. There is no obligation. Operators are standing by.
Call 800-853-3515.
This is Life with Lisa Lamb. New episodes, Sundays at 10 on CNN.
We have another projection right now. CNN now projects that Donald Trump will win the state of Alaska. Alaska has 3 electoral votes. Donald Trump will carry Alaska. Another win for Donald Trump. Let's take a look at the Electoral College map. With this win, these 3 electoral votes closer and closer to this magic number of 270 needed to win the White House. He now has 247 votes. Hillary Clinton has 215 votes. He is getting closer and closer to that number of 270. Let's do a key race alert right now. All right, let's start off with the states that are still outstanding. We'll start off in Michigan, where 84% of the vote is now in. Trump has a nearly 80,000 vote lead in the state of Michigan, which right there has 16 electoral votes. Michigan, we're waiting for more votes. Wisconsin, 89% of the vote is in. Trump also has a pretty impressive lead, 86,000 vote lead over Hillary Clinton. There's another 10 electoral votes right there. Arizona, 66% of the vote is in. Trump has a 62,000 vote lead over Hillary Clinton. 11 electoral votes at stake in Arizona. He is ahead. In Pennsylvania, he is ahead as well. 97% of the vote is in. That's a healthy number. He is ahead by almost 77,000 votes over Hillary Clinton. Pennsylvania alone has electoral votes. Trump is ahead at this late stage right there. Let's take a look at the remaining outstanding states. New Hampshire, 87% of the vote is in. Hillary Clinton has the lead, about 3,700 vote lead over Donald Trump, with 4 electoral votes at stake in New Hampshire. In Maine, another 4 electoral votes at stake there. Hillary Clinton is up there as well. She has an 18,000 vote lead over Donald Trump. 86% of the vote is in. And in Minnesota, Hillary Clinton is ahead by almost 57,000 votes over Donald Trump. 87% of the vote is in the state of Minnesota right there. So you see Donald Trump is doing well. Once again, let's take a look at the electoral map. You can see 270 needed to win, 247. It's 247 for Trump, 215 for Hillary Clinton. You see those yellow states, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 states remaining outstanding. Jake, Donald Trump in the biggest of those states right now is ahead.
And can I just say, we've been talking for months about what the effect of Donald Trump and comments he made would be on the Latino vote and on the vote of white college-educated women. And the truth of the matter is that, according to exit polls, the effect was not as strong as anybody would have predicted. Anybody did predict, except for maybe Mr. Trump. Donald Trump only lost white college-educated women by 6 points, according to exit poll data I saw. That's not the huge gender gap chasm that we thought we were going to see. But perhaps even more surprisingly, I'm looking at exit poll data comparing the percentage of the Latino vote that Romney got versus the percentage of the Latino vote that Trump got in 4 states. In Florida, Trump got a smaller percentage than Romney got. But in Nevada, in New Mexico, and in North Carolina, Donald Trump did better with Latino voters than Mitt Romney did. I mean, tell me who had that on their bingo card.
Yeah, nobody. But that speaks to sort of taking it up to 10,000 feet here. Going back to June 16th, 2015, when Donald Trump announced, I see Corey over there, he was there, he remembers, every step of the way. He announced, nobody thought he really meant it. He wasn't going to give his financial records. He did. I remember vividly a top aide to one of the early frontrunners on the Republican primary contenders saying, "Why are you guys talking about Donald Trump? There's no way he will ever be Republican nominee." And then fast forward to all of these ups and downs that he had, and he was completely resilient for the reasons that you were just talking about. Because it all comes down to an economic message that he, no matter what else he veered off in, and he veered off in a lot of directions that his campaign did not appreciate, but he had the fundamental appeal to people who felt and feel left behind. And that was something that was impenetrable for these voters. And that is why he was Teflon Trump. And so along the way, I mean, we can chronicle it. We could sit here for 20 minutes and chronicle all of the zigs and zags of the Trump campaign, but he kept coming back because it was that fundamental.
And when you look at, this is traditionally a night where we'll talk about what the winner did right, and not necessarily what the person who doesn't win, the loser, does. But when you look at the campaign of Bill Clinton talking to working class voters in 1992 versus the campaign of Hillary Clinton talking to voters in 2016. I don't think you got "it's the economy, stupid" message from Hillary Clinton that Bill Clinton and James Carville and Paul Begala and others drove home. It was a very different message. And apparently enough people in union households and in white working class households in Michigan and Wisconsin and Pennsylvania and Ohio and Iowa thought, she's not talking to me. She's not telling me what she's going to do to make my life better. And Donald Trump is, which seems obvious now, but at the time, I think probably a lot of Democrats were frustrated.
And Dan, as you remember, all of us remember a lot of those Trump supporters, and there are millions of them. I think about 55 million already have voted for him tonight. So many of them were angry at Hillary Clinton when she used that word deplorables in describing Donald Trump supporters. And they said, "We're Americans. We love this country. We are not deplorable."
No question. You know, it didn't turn out to be the Mitt Romney 47% moment that kind of, sort of played on a loop. But there's no question that the deplorable concept was something that the Trump supporters embraced. I mean, how many times did we go to a Trump rally and people were wearing T-shirts saying, "I'm a proud deplorable, adorable deplorable"? I mean, they embraced it because they thought it was so ridiculous, because they thought that their voices, and they think that their voices, should be heard too, and that Trump supporters were misunderstood. And some of them were, and some of them weren't. But that's a story for down the road. But the bottom line, at the end of the day, is that he surprised constantly throughout the entire Republican primary season, and then he clearly seems to continue to do that through the general.
And you know what else, Jake, he did? He showed during the Republican primary contest when he beat 16 or 17 Republican senators and governors. So many of them had a lot more money in paid commercial advertising than he did. He had relatively little during the primaries, but he was on television clearly all of the time. And in the general election, Hillary Clinton, her campaign spent so much more money on negative ads against him, yet look at how well he has done today.
At the end of the day, it's not necessarily the richest candidate, as Jeb Bush showed us earlier. It's not necessarily the candidate that is flashier necessarily. It's the candidate that has a message that appeals to the plurality or majority of voters. And he apparently, we haven't called this race yet, but he apparently had that. He apparently, that message of jobs, border, terrorism, Washington's broken, saying it over and over and over again, that was appealing. People think Washington is broken. They think they have lost their faith in American institutions, including Republican leaders and Democratic leaders in Congress, including law enforcement, including counterterrorism officials, including the mainstream media. They have lost their faith. And he was giving voice to them.
And Dana, he stuck by his basic message from day one. He said, we're going to build a wall. Mexico's going to pay for it. He still says that. In the past few days, he continues to say that. He's going to repeal and replace Obamacare, the Affordable Care Act. He still says that. He's been saying that since day one. He stuck to those messages, and it seems to have worked.
It's true. And as you're saying that, I'm thinking of Kellyanne Conway, his campaign manager's kind of her mantra. She said it to me, and she said it to both of you as well in interviews, which is her sort of diplomatic way of saying that she didn't think that Donald Trump did well when he hurt himself by getting distracted by other issues, but he did the best when he was talking about the issues. On that note, let me just tell you what she said in the "Told You So" tweet, kind of very well constructed from Kellyanne Conway. Things that were true: undercover Trump vote, at Mike Pence for VP, Hillary's floor and ceiling are the same. Rally crowds matter. We expanded the map.
All right, everybody stand by. It's a cliffhanger race right now. We're watching the final electoral votes come in. Let's take a quick break. We'll be right back.
It's a beautiful movie about a guy who has to come back to the town where he's from in order to take care of his nephew.
Well, I can't be his guardian.
Patrick's a 15-year-old boy. He's got a whole life in Manchester.
You actually have sex with these girls?
Strictly basement business. The problem is, Lee has got to face the greatest tragedy of his life.
My heart was broken, and I know yours is broken too.
It feels like real life, and I think the movie's incredible.
Manchester by the Sea, rated R.
Let's face it, not all of your friends are created equal. Imagine traveling with a group of them. You have the night owl, there's the early bird, the lone wolf, and even the sloth. Now, of course, you wouldn't put them in the same room together. With one search, Trivago makes it easy for you to look for multiple rooms. Simply select the number of rooms and the number of people staying in them. So, same hotel, separate rooms, single search. Hotel, Trivago.
Closed captioning brought to you by InventHelp. Call 1-888-909-4332.
People ask me all the time, George, what do I do with my idea for a new product? I tell them, call my friends at InventHelp.
Call for free information.
Oh my God! Yo, let me see your hands!
trouble.